Okay. See, today's topic is one second. Hello everyone. Today's topic is domain naming system. Okay. So you are already aware because we little discussed yesterday also. Domain naming system means it is DNS means is domain naming system. What is the use of domain naming system? Domain naming system will help you to resolve a host name to IP address and IP address back to host name. So, what is the necessity of the domain naming system? Let us understand today. Okay, so since we are all human beings, for us, remembering the name is very easy, but remembering the number it is very difficult. Okay, so if I just tell you to remember www.facebook.com, you will be easily remember it. Whereas if I ask you to remember the IP address of facebook.com, it is quite difficult. Correct na? Imagine just to manage one name, host name or a domain name or a website name, it is so difficult to remember the IP address. In an enterprise, we have 10,000, 20,000 servers, I don't know, hundreds of applications, correct now. So it is not so easy actually. Okay. So that is the reason this domain naming system comes to picture. What it will do, it is in service. What it will do, whenever we have a domain or an application or a website, right? A record will be created inside the domain naming server, the DNS server. Okay. What happens when you type www.facebook.com? The first it will just go and check in the local DNS cache and then the host file, and then it goes to the DNS server, and in the DNS server it's just look for the host. If the host is available, it will pick the IP address from there and it'll give it to you, and then the resolution will happen and the application will talk, because computers will only understand the numbers, not the names. Correct na? So what the challenge is here, we understand only the names. We understand names and numbers, but for us this is difficult to remember the numbers. That is why what we will do, we will remember those applications. Instead of number, we will remember it in the name. But computers won't understand the strings. Names it won't understand. Computers will only understand zeros and ones or the numbers. Okay. To make job easy for both human as well as the computer, so this domain naming system acts as a bridge. Okay. To come out from this kind of difficulties. So that is the necessity of the domain naming system, and domain naming system is very crucial, okay, in order to have the active directory environment. Okay, so if you want to have a healthy active directory environment, DNS is very crucial. If no DNS, your active directory will not work. Both active directory and DNS are integrated, and that is the reason whenever you are configuring the active directory domain controller, even though you are not selecting the domain naming system, the active directory on its own install the domain naming system and configures the DNS service. And that is the reason any active directory domain controller, we also call it as DNS. That is the reason in the network interface card, in the DNS place, we will always keep the same server IP address as the DNS if it is a domain controller. Okay, that is the importance of the domain naming system background. Now let us understand how this DNS will work. Again, domain naming system means it's a protocol or a service. It will be used to resolve a host name into IP address and vice versa. How the resolution will happen? You see this picture. Okay. So imagine you have a client PC. In the client PC, you logs in. Okay. And you log into the computer and you will tell you are trying to access www.facebook.com. So what happens? It will just come and in check in this computer. This is your computer and you are here. Okay. Typing www.facebook.com. The query, the request will go to this computer, and within this computer it will go to the local host file. Okay. Local host file you already know. It is there in, if you go to run and type drivers, Okay, inside that you have a folder called etc, and see, this is the file. So in this file, if you double click and see, you will see the DNS entry records. Means you have the IP address and you have the domain name. So here what it will, it will just come and look, is there any record that I am looking for. I was looking for the facebook.com. See here, I don't see the record. Sometimes what happens here, you may have 192.168.190.230. It's a dummy IP address, okay, and maybe here facebook.com. Okay, it will just come and look at this file. It will understand, yes, there is an entry called facebook.com. Yeah, IP address is this one. So then it will give you back. If the entry is not here, okay, then the DNS will look in the DNS cache. The DNS cache is, you can see it in the command prompt. If you go to command prompt, okay, and if you type ipconfig display DNS, okay, if you put it ipconfig slash display DNS, it will just pull out all the DNS cache or whatever. If you have already accessed that application, that information will be here, and it will retrieve the information from this cache and it will give it to you. Okay, if that is also not available, then the actual DNS resolution process will start by asking in the domain DNS servers. Now it just comes here, it will just check, but it does not find the entry here. Then the query will go to the DNS cache. The DNS cache also, it is not there. Then if the entry is not present in the local host file of the computer, the host file, within the host file, if the entry is not there, then it goes to the local DNS cache, the client DNS cache. If that is not present there, then the request, you see here, it will go to the preferred DNS server. Okay, this is our preferred DNS server here. Okay, here you will have a domain name. Okay, DNS google.com, and here it will just, zones will be there, primary zone, secondary zone, sub zones will be there. You will understand better in another 5 minutes. Okay, so there it will just look for the entry. Is there any entry called a record called facebook.com? Okay, is there any record called facebook.com? Okay, okay, and what is the IP address? Say for example 192.168.1.30. Okay, if the entry is there, okay, it will just retrieve the information from this preferred DNS server, and then that entry will be sent it back to the user here. Okay, the entry will be coming here, and the in the within the browser your application will be launched. Sometimes what happens, even this preferred DNS, no, in the network interface card, if you just go, once the IP address is added, below you have the add the DNS, there you have preferred DNS and alternate DNS. So sometimes the very first DNS, the preferred DNS, will not have that particular entry. Okay, so what he will do, no, I don't see that record, but I have my friend. Okay, there is a nearby DNS server, is there one more DNS server? Let me ask my friend, or let me ask the another DNS server which I know. So then what it will do, the preferred DNS server, it will just send that request query to the alternate DNS server. So the alternate DNS server also checks in the same zone, actually google.com, and it has got another zone. Okay, in that zone it will look for the facebook.com. And if it is having a record, okay, the record can be anything, it is a record or ptr record, anything. Since I am looking for the facebook, the name, we call it as a record. Okay, and if the a record is present, it will also have an IP address 192.168.190.30. It is like we have our phone telephone directory, correct, huh? If you want to look for an office number or a person number or a VIP number, all the numbers will be listed there. Okay, when you look for an IP address in this DNS server, we will look for the record. If the record is there, we will get the result. If the record is not there, the query will send it to the alternate DNS server. In the alternate DNS server, if I have the record, yes, what it will do, the alternate DNS server will not directly fulfill the record of the, I mean request of the client PC, because the client PC is not sending the request to the alternate DNS server. The alternate DNS server is getting the request from the preferred DNS server. So this preferred DNS server asks for the alternate DNS server. Do you know this facebook.com? Then this alternate DNS server will tell to the preferred DNS server, yes, I know this fellow and this IP address is 192.168.190.30, right? And then with this activity, the preferred DNS server will also know the information of the facebook.com. So next time, not you, maybe some other user requests for the facebook.com. That case, since this preferred DNS already know the information from the alternate DNS server, he himself will send the response to the any user. So then this preferred DNS server will respond back to you stating that yes, I have an information and IP address of the facebook.com is this one. What is this? IP address 192.168.190.30 as an example. Then the application will open. You have the page. This is how the DNS resolution will happen. Any questions, guys? Hello? Okay. If no questions, I'll move on. This is very, very important. In the interview, definitely they will ask you what is DNS server and how the DNS query work. You have to tell the same thing. Okay. When the user logs in, he'll type www.facebook. They will ask you like this. What happens when the user type www.google.com or facebook.com in the browser? They'll ask this question and you have to tell this story. So when the user enters www.facebook.com, the DNS resolution starts initiated. Okay, so initiated and it will just go and check for the entry in the localhost file. Then it will just check in the DNS cache. If that is not present, then the DNS query will forward to the preferred DNS server looking for the answer. If that is also not available, the query will be keep on forwarding to the next nearby server. See here in our case, we get it in the second DNS server only. Sometimes even the primary doesn't know, the secondary doesn't know, then we have a concept called forwarder. Okay, that forwarder will forward the query to the internet world, and in the internet world we have this top level domains. Okay, .com, .in, .org, .pvt, .military. Okay, these are all the top level domains. In the next slide you will understand why we call those as a top level domains and how the DNS resolution will happen. Okay, that's about the takeaway of this slide. So if no questions, I'll move on. And you see here, I just told you, right? The DNS, there are, I mean, DNS process, okay? So, so the query what I told, no? So when you request for a IP address, okay, there are two, I mean, there are three types of query in the DNS, okay? The query means whenever you are start sending the request, okay, you want to retrieve an IP address of a domain name, okay, or an URL or an application. So the query happens in three ways actually. Okay. So I told you you are initiating the facebook.com, right? See, you are here in this computer, okay, and you are typing facebook.com. Okay, you are typing facebook.com and it just checks in the host file DNS cache, it is not available, then the query will be forwarded to the preferred DNS server here. Okay, the very first DNS server. Okay, so if the very first DNS server, he himself is able to respond back. Okay, you see here, he himself is able to respond back. Okay, that means at the first attempt only, we are retrieving the information. Means I'm asking you, you are responding me back with the answer. If that case, we call it as iterative query. Means the query is getting fulfilled at the first iteration itself, or if the at the first ask itself. I'm asking you to tell the IP address of the facebook.com, and you are directly giving me the answer. Yes, the IP address is 192.168.190.30. If that is the case, such queries we call it as iterative query. Okay, because the query is getting fulfilled at the first attempt itself, and that is the reason we call it as iterative query. Okay, and the second one is recursive query. Why we call it as recursive? See, I am asking the facebook.com IP address to the preferred DNS server, and this person looks for that. And if he is not finding any answer for that, what he will do? He will ask his colleague or his friend, stating, "Hey, do you know this uh, uh, resolution? Do you know this address of this facebook.com?" Then he will send the query to the this person, right? The second person, or the alternate DNS server, this person, correct na? So here he looks for the IP address. Yes, it is there, I can see the answer. Then he will send the query back to this person. So here there are two loop. One is here from client to the preferred DNS server, and this preferred DNS, okay, uh, this preferred DNS server is sending the query to alternate DNS server. So here two loops are there, correct, right? So since the queries keep on reoccurring, so I am asking this computer, this preferred DNS server, and preferred DNS server is forwarding the query to the next DNS server. Means here the query is reoccurring. Correct, na? Not only this time, there are 5, 10 times also it keep on reoccurring. So I'm asking you, do you know the IP address? Okay, and you are asking your friend, and he is asking his friend. Like that, the queries keep on reoccurring. Such kind of processes are the queries we call it as recursive query, because the query is reoccurring. Okay, and he is now the alternate DNS server gives the information to the preferred DNS server, and the preferred DNS server is sending the information to this client machine, and then your facebook.com will open. So this is what the iterative query and the recursive query. Definitely there is a question, what is iterative, what is recursive? Simple answer, if the query gets fulfilled at the first ask itself, such queries we call it as iterative. If the queries keep on forwarding to the next nearby servers, next nearby DNS servers, such till it gets fulfilled, such kind of queries we call it as recursive query. Okay, and the third one is inverse. Inverse means it is very easy. No matter whether the query is iterative or recursive, if you are resolving an ip address to host name, you know the IP address, okay, and you are just typing ns lookup, and you are just typing ns lookup space 192.168.190.30, and you are trying to resolve it to the name. Okay, such we call it as inverse. See, most of the time, 99.9% of the time, you will be knowing the name, correct? Because whatever website you open, whether you open facebook.com, google.com, instagram.com, linkedin.com, whatever .coms, we 99.9% of the time, we know the name, we may not know the IP address. Okay, that 0.1% is there, no? That 0.1%, we know the IP address, and we wanted to know what device it is. Such time we use inverse query, because that is inverse IP to name. Okay, that is about the DNS queries. Any question, guys, here? Okay, silence is no. If no questions, I'll move on. Okay, now the important thing is, this is also one of the important thing in all the interview, there will be a question on this. Okay, so there are two types of resolutions are there in the DNS. So the two types of resolutions are forward lookup and reverse lookup. Okay, what do you mean by forward lookup? The same thing. If you have a name, a host name, and you are trying to resolve to an IP address, the actual fashion. You have facebook.com domain name, you want to retrieve it, correct? So that is called as forward lookup. Means you have the name, you are trying to resolve it to the, okay, you are trying to resolve it to the IP address. See here, you are going here www.facebook.com. Okay, this is called as forward lookup. Here you know the name, and you have retrieved the IP address. Sometimes what happens, you may don't know the IP name, but you know the IP address. Say for example, ns lookup facebook.com. Okay, now you only know the IP address. This is your facebook.com, the actual IP address. Okay, even if you put www.facebook.com, that time also the same page opens facebook.com, or even if you put the 157.240.190.18, that time also the facebook.com opens. Okay, let me close that. Let me show you that. Okay, now I know the IP address. This is IP address of facebook.com, correct now? 157.240.192.18. So now I don't know the name of the domain, but I know the IP address. If you type like this is called as reverse lookup. See here, since okay, so this is certificate error, that's okay. Okay, if you go to advanced and if you continue proceed, right, then your facebook.com, see your facebook.com opens here. See, you have done both forward lookup as well as reverse lookup here. So forward lookup means you know the name and you are trying to resolve it to the IP address. Reverse lookup means you know the IP address and you are trying to know what is the host name of the IP address. That is forward lookup and reverse lookup. Okay, and what is DNS zones? Okay, there are zones. What do you mean by zones? Any idea, guys? What do you mean by zones? So zones is nothing but, okay, it is a storage area where you can keep the DNS records. Okay, there are three types of zones in the DNS. One is the primary zone, another one is the secondary zone, third one is the stub zone. The primary means the very first DNS server, okay, which holds all kinds of records. Means the first DNS server which holds all kinds of records, and it is an authoritative zone. Means a DNS server is there. Okay, in that you have all kinds of record. It stores any kinds of records. There are multiple types of records: A record, double A record, pointer record, MX record, SRV record. Means to store each and every information, each and different types of information. There is different types of records are there. You will understand in the next slide. Okay, to store that you have your primary zone and secondary zone and stub zone. If you imagine, maybe at your kitchen you have multiple partitions. Mother make your mother or our mother may what they will do, they'll use to keep masala item, one they'll use oil, they will use, and vessels they will use. If you have this modular kitchen, if you have at home, even the not in non even though if you don't have modular kitchen also, in the house they will have these partitions. Okay, they'll keep, I mean, daily usable things they'll keep next to them. Okay, na, rarely usable things they can keep it in the somewhere else. Okay, so like that, the primary zone and secondary zone, stub zones, are also like the shelves at the home. We call it as zones actually, where we can create the records. So primary zone means the very first DNS server. Okay, it is it holds all the records and it is an authoritative. Authoritative means whenever I send the DNS query, like I wanted to resolve facebook.com, that the query will go to the primary zone and the primary zone will give the IP address. Okay, that is called as authoritative. Means I'm asking that, and the primary zone is giving the response back. If that is the case, we call it authoritative. Okay, so we can edit, I mean, we can create the record, we can edit the record, we can delete the record. Okay, and sometimes what happens, there is a server and the server IP address is 192.168.190.30. Due to some reasons you change the IP address of the server to 30 to 40. So there is a change. That change will automatically updated in the DNS record if it is a primary zone. Means it is a dynamic one. Whatever changes you do either in the name or the IP address, that will get reflect automatically without your intervention. It gets changed and the record will be updated. That is called as primary zone. So very simple. Primary zone means, imagine it is a primary means what? We normally go to primary schools first, correct, right? So primary means that is the first one. Okay, it has got all the records. Okay, and it is authoritative. You imagine like this. Primary means it's the first school when we go. Okay, and whatever mistakes you want to do, you can do there, correct na? And it is authoritative. Our parents will drop us and pick up us, correct na? They are authoritative. So try to imagine like that. And it gives the response back to all the DNS queries, and it is a dynamic one, means it keeps on changes if there is a change. That is called as primary zone. And the secondary is copy of the primary one, but it is it is an it is also an authoritative, but it is not a dynamic one. Okay, you have to manually, uh, you cannot create the manually, no, either you cannot, sorry, the secondary one is copy of the primary, but it is only read only, you cannot create, you cannot modify anything. Okay, but it is an authoritative. It is also, reply back whenever there's a request goes there. And the last one is stub zone. See, primary, all records are there, authoritative and dynamic, correct na? But secondary is copy of the primary, but you cannot, it is not, you cannot, it is read only actually, you cannot create any record, you cannot, modify the record, and it cannot be AD integrated. Okay, but stub zone means, stub zone is having only three types of record. It is not having all the records, only three records it will have: A record, NS record, and SOA records. Okay, it is a non-authoritative. What will be there if you ask, I want to open www.sony.com. Okay, the DNS, the stub zone will have this NS records. What record? This NS record is there, no? This NS record will be there. NS record means it is name server record or the DNS records. Okay, so this DNS records will be there, no? What it will actually does is, so it will just refer the relevant DNS server. It will tell, I don't know Sony.com, but I have a friend who is having, whose name is entfis.com. Okay, then the stub zone will refer that .com, and inside that .com we will search for the Sony. Okay, I'll explain in the next slide. So stub zone means it will only have the reference points. Actually, it will only have the three records: A record, NS record, and SOA record. It is a non-authoritative. It will just forward the query to the relevant DNS servers. That's all. So people may ask a question, what is stub zone? Definitely they will ask. You have to tell stub zone is the one of the stub zone is one of the zone in the DNS. It will only have three records: A record, NS record, SOA records. Less traffic will be there in that, and it is the responsibility of the stub zone is to forward the query to the relevant DNS server. That's all. Okay. Any questions, guys? Here, this is important. 3 4 questions are very very important here. In the notes it is there. Okay, so if no questions, I'll move on to the next slide. See here, I told it has got multiple types of records. I was talking about records. Okay, records is nothing but it is an information. If you remember, if you are science background, we used to write records in our college days. Computer science separate record, physics separate record, chemistry separate record, correct, right? Like that we used to maintain the records for the labs. The same thing here, records means it is we are maintaining some information of the computers, of the some servers of or some services. See, there are many more DNS records. Majorly 7 records are there. Okay, if somebody asks you, you should know this 7 records. The very first one is A record. A record means it is the record used to store the computer name and application name or the domain name. Okay, so A means it is domain name or computer information. Okay, or domain information or name. Okay, so A means okay. That is for IPv4. IPv4. Triple A means for IPv6. If you look at here, if you look at here, the facebook.com has got two IP address here. One is IPv6 with the big one, another one is IPv4, correct na? IPv4 is very, very small, the IPv6 is very big one, correct, right? So if I create a record for IPv6, that is called as triple A record. If I create IPv4 record, that is called as A record. See here, A record means it is the standard computer name, okay, for IPv4, and triple A record it is, okay. Some people will call it as triple A record or double A record also calls, but you call it as triple A. In some nodes it is double A, double A is there, but you remember it as triple A record. Okay, so triple A record means it is for IPv6. Okay, so say for example you have the PC, you have built a computer called PC, and you are joining that PC01 to the domain called google.com. If you go to DNS and look, it will have a record stating a record. A record will be created, the name is PC01, IP address is whatever IP address you assign, it is there. I'll show you in some time. And PTR record means for reverse lookup. Means you, if you type facebook.com, the IP address comes, means that is a record. If you have IP address, the name comes then. Name to IP address. For reverse lookup, we will create a record called pointer record. Okay, and NS record means name service record. For all the DNS servers, there is a record gets created in the type called NS record. Means NS record means it stores all the DNS servers in the NS record format. CNAME means it is alias name. Alias means what? It is another name. Okay, maybe you have seen Dali Dhananjay. Okay, Dali is also Dhananjay. Dhananjay alias name is Dali, correct? Like that. So CNAME means it is canonical name or alias name. Okay, so why do we use alias name? Imagine now Facebook acquires a company called Instagram.com. Okay, so when I type facebook.com, so there are two companies, one is facebook.com, another one is instagram.com. Now Facebook acquire instagram.com. Going forward, Facebook don't want this Instagram to call it as instagram.com. Okay, maybe they need to call with this instagram.com to some other name, maybe Facebook new, facebooknew.com. Okay, what they will do in the DNS, they will create a C name. They will create a C name for Instagram.com stating Facebook.com, and that also resolves to the same IP address 192.168.1.100. This is also same 192.168.1.100. Okay, if whenever the user type instagram.com, that time also the same IP opens, and whenever the user type facebook new.com, that time also the same IP address get resolved. So end of the day the same applications will be opened. Okay, so just to mask the identity, actual identity of the application, so we are using C names. If I don't want to call you as your name, there is a nickname for you, right? Either I call with your nickname, or if I call you with your actual name, you will respond to me. You will respond to me, right? The same fashion it is. Okay. And SOA record. So imagine you have 3 to 4 DNS servers or 10 DNS servers in the estate. Okay. The each and every DNS server will be in the synchronization. I know some information, and I wanted to send you some information which is replicatable. So the time interval between the replication between two different DNS servers we call it as S4 record, means start of authority, the refresh interval of the DNS servers, means how frequently I should talk to that neighbor DNS server or the next DNS server. We store that information as SY record. SY record is nothing but start of authority record. It will be used to refresh the DNS interval. Okay, refresh interval of DNS. Okay, so I'll show you that also. And MX record, mail exchange record. If you have a mail server in our office, okay, exchange server or Lotus Note server, so any server that hosted mail services, so such records will be stored in the MX record. And SRV record means you have a service, and to identify some service, okay, the SRV records are created. Example, see in the corporate office how it happens, whenever you are building a server or a computer, right, you will just domain join it. So soon after you domain join it, okay, you are not activating the license. Okay, there is a service called KLM, key license manager. Okay, when that service is running in the estate, a record will be created called SRV record. So whenever I domain join a server to the google.com or any other domain names, okay, domains, They will understand the presence of the KLM with the presence of the SRV record, and they will ask, I just joined this domain, give me license, like that. So the handshake happens, the license gets activated without your manual intervention. And also, whenever a server gets decommissioned, it will automatically take the license from that computer back to the pool. So that's the beauty of this SRV records. So SRV records are the records used to identify or locate and particular service presence in the DNS estate. Okay, that is about the DNS records. Any questions, guys? If no questions, maybe the last slide actually. So one more important topic called root hints and top level domains. So if you see here, the root hints are the DNS servers on the internet, okay, that your DNS server can use to resolve queries for that. Okay, it doesn't know. Say for example, now you are in google.com. Anything that ends with Google will be resolved because your DNS server responsibility is anything that is ends with google.com, maybe pc01.google.com or application1.google.com or server01.google.com, because your scope is within the google.com. Imagine you are trying to access in your office, you are trying to access instagram.com, you want to log into Instagram and you wanted to post some reels. Okay, you did some, yesterday there was a Dasara Puja, you did some reel and you wanted to upload it in the Instagram.com. Now you went to your laptop and you're typing www.instagram.com, but Instagram.com is not your office network, it is the external network, internet. You want internet to access Instagram.com. So that time how the resolution will happen? Okay, that time what happens? We will use the root hints. So your google.com says I don't see any person called Instagram.com. So then the query will be forwarded to the root hints. What are the root hints? Root is nothing but dot, guys. If somebody talks about root, we call that as dot. This is called as root hint. So what your DNS server will tell, I don't know this person called Instagram.com, but I have a person, he is my friend. Okay, I know a person, he knows everybody. You can just check with him. Who's that everybody? That person is dot. Okay, this is called as the root hints. Okay, and all this dot eau, okay, dot gov, these are all top level domains. If you look at top level domains, tld we refer it as, okay, it refers to the last segment of the domain, like dot in, dot org, dot net, dot military, dot government. Okay, all this, anything that ends with dot in, dot ek, dot usa, these are all top level domains. So here dot is the root domain, okay, and .org, .gov, all these are top level domains. So your DNS server, what it will do, I don't know anybody called Instagram.com, okay, but I know a person called dot, and the DNS query will just go and talk to this dot. Do you know a person called Instagram.com? Then this person will tell, I don't have Instagram.com, but I know a person called com. Then he will send the information to this com, and then the DNS query will go and ask the com, do you know a person called Instagram? Then he will just look in the directory. Okay, there maybe Instagram is there. Okay, maybe under that you have this server server 01. Okay, so this person will tell, yes, I have a person called Instagram.com. And Instagram, what is the IP address? Maybe this is 172.16.1.100. So then he will retrieve the information of the IP address and he will give it back. This is how the top level domains and the root hints will help you to resolve the IP address, or in whether it is a forward lookup or reverse lookup. Okay, this is the importance of those of this dot com, why it is not ash com, correct, why it is not greater than dot com. It is all different reason behind it. Okay, simply we should not keep dots. So that is how the DNS works. Okay, is this clear, guys? This is interesting, no? Okay. So if it is fine, I'll move on to the next slide. The same thing here, forwarder. Forwarder means the person who forward the query to the internet world. Means I was explaining you here .com, correct? Na? So to forward this my query dot instagram dot com dot query to the dot person, I need a forwarder. The forwarder are nothing but the DNS servers of Google or any other service provider. Okay, so the person who forward the query to the external world, such person we call it as forwarder. Okay, that forwarders are nothing but Google DNS. Okay, like 8.8.8.8 is Google DNS or any other, maybe whenever you are having the internet, if it is a geo, so they will be having their own forwarder. If you are using Airtel, they will be having their own forwarder. If you don't have any forwarder, you can use Google DNS server as forwarder. That is, Google DNS server is 8.8.8.8. Okay, so that's about the forwarder. And conditional forwarders are there. So conditional forwarders are, they are very smart peoples. Okay, so they will forward based on the conditions. Okay, imagine imagine you have a conditional forward created. What is a conditional forward? Maybe in the DNS, in the within the DNS, okay, there is a person called conditional forwarder, and that conditional forwarder is nothing but, say for example, if a query that ends with Sony.com, say for example, now imagine the Facebook acquired Sony, and there are a lot of requests comes ending with Sony, because Sony is a new company which got acquired by Facebook.com, and many users are trying to access server 01.sony.com or application 10.sony.com, like that. So what you will do, you will create the forwarder based on the conditions. What is that condition? So based on some condition, if the domain name ends with sony.com, then don't send to multiple DNS server, just send the DNS query to this particular DNS server, like that you are defining. Okay, so sony.com. So what happens, this is a condition. So whenever the user types like server1.sony.com, then rather sending this information to 10 different DNS server and making iterative query or recursive query or forwarding, so directly forward this query to the newly built server called sony.com. That is a conditional forwarder. Okay, based on some conditions, you are forwarding the query to the particular DNS server. That is called as conditional forwarder. In the name itself you can understand. Okay, that's about the forwarder. Okay, that's all. And let me show you couple of commands. Okay, see, here I have put couple of commands, important commands of DNS. Okay, the one is NS lookup. NS lookup is very crucial, guys, because all the interview they'll ask you, can you please let me know few network or troubleshooting commands. The first one is ping, P-I-N-G, ping. Okay, that will help you to check the connectivity of the server. Okay, like you see here, if I go to command prompt, now I want to know whether the connectivity is there for google.com or facebook.com. What you have to do, you have to put png ping. You can just tell facebook.com. You're trying to have check the connectivity is there or not from your laptop to the internet. See, and I'm getting here replay. I'm getting the replay from 157.240.192.35. This is the IP address of the facebook.com, and I'm getting response. See, I'm getting the replay from. Imagine you have, okay, you're trying to talk to another. I'm just entering wrongly to look at the wait. Sometimes what happens, if this IP address, if the network is not available or if the communication is not available, what happens? Which should mybusiness.com. Okay. Oh, that is also there. Huh? That website is there. Okay. Myself.com. That record is not there, that is why it is not giving. Okay, or ping server01.com. Mhm. See, this entries are not there, that is why. Okay, what I can do, ping 192.168.190.10. See, it is coming now. So it will come like this. See, destination was unreachable or request timed out. See, like that. If you are getting this kind of response, okay, such kind of response, like one replay from 192.168.190.17, okay, destination host unreachable, or this request timed out, that means the connectivity is not there between your computer and the destination IP address which you are looking for. Okay, that is one command to check the communication of the server. And another one is NS lookup. You want to know the IP address of facebook.com. So to see the IP address whether the DNS is resolving or not, it is not about to check the IP address, guys. If you're putting it, you have to put like you wanted to verify whether the lookup is happening or not, DNS lookup is happening or not. That time you use NS lookup command. Another one is to see the DNS cache, it is ipconfig slash display DNS, and that lists out all the cache of the DNS whatever is available from the starting. Okay, sometimes what happens, you open an application and that application is opening only from office network. When you come to home, it is not opening. So that time what happens, maybe in your office you may have a different network setup or the DNS setup. What you have to do, you can just clear this cache, ipconfig slash flush DNS. See, flush DNS, ipconfig flush means flushing, you are flushing the all the cache, whatever cache you are able to see now here. All this is cache, okay? So that will get cleared. Now if you put display DNS, see nothing is there. Windows IP config. See, nothing is there. When I say IP config flush display DNS, nothing is there because I did the flush. Now, to show you something, okay, what I will do, I will create again some, I will try to open something again, okay. Now, what I will do, I will type facebook.com, instagram.com, okay. Now, if I go to the display DNS, okay, here, if I go display DNS, so, mm, yeah, IP config slash display DNS. See, since I opened two things now, okay, two website I opened, that is why this again uh, the cache stored some information. Okay, so these are all the commands which we use in the real time troubleshooting or real time DNS usage. I think with all with this, I think we are good with the I think with that we are good with the DNS topic. Let me quickly go through the lab. Can we continue? We have still 6 minutes. I think we can just wrap up by that time. 6 minutes is enough for the DNS one. Okay. Let me power on this one. PC. Let me power on the PC. Okay. So I want to show you something actually. Okay. How to create a record, how to edit a record, how to create the zones quickly. Yeah. See, this is my domain controller, which is DC01, correct? Huh? So I told you, right? All the domain controller will also have the DNS installed because Active Directory is not working, will not work without the DNS, correct? Nah? So if that is the case, let me check by going to the tools here. Did I have, do I have DNS? Yes, I have the DNS here. See, DNS is there here. That means my Active Directory server is also having the DNS. Okay, so this is the DNS console. If I open, so the DNS console, if I double click on the DC01, you see some options called forward lookup zones and reverse lookup zones. If I expand the forward lookup zone, there you have our google.com. I told you, no, anything that ends in google.com, all the entries will be created here. If you see, I have my DC, okay, and the DC IP address is see 192.168.190.30. If you see my PC, which is there in google.com, correct? This PC01 is there in google.com, and the entry of this PC01 is 192.168.190.70. That is what I was telling. Whenever the queries asks for the server name, it will just come to this DNS. I'll go to the zones and look for the records. See, these are all records. See here, type is host A. Can you see host A here? Correct. Huh? You see the name, you see the type, you see the data, and what is the timestamp. So this is how we will create. So these records will be automatically getting created whenever you are adding the machines to the domain. Okay. Or you can even create manually. Say for example, tomorrow you are going to create a new computer domain join. Okay. You are joining a domain joining a new computer and you want to create a record. Very simple. Just come to this zone, right click, and you see here new host a record or alias name if you want, or mail server, new domain name, delegation, all those things are there. But we normally create a records and alias record or mx records. Okay, so let me click on new host a record. This option comes, then it is asking you to create pc02.google.com. See, pc02.google.com. If you just put pc02, the fqdn is automatically populating, and put the IP address here 192.168. Maybe 190.33 or maybe 71. Okay, and I will say add host. See now, since I've added PC02.192.168.190.71, if you go to the command prompt CMD, okay, and if you try to look up, if you try to look up NS lookup, okay, and PC02, see, it is getting the response. See, within the 2 3 seconds, whatever it took, no, in the 2 3 seconds, that request is coming to this DNS server and to this zone, and it is see PC02 means it is 192.168.190.71. So from here it is picking the value. Now see here, 192, 168, 190.71 is there. Now I wanted to little bit change. Out of 71, what I will do, I'll just change it to 171 and I'll say apply and OK. Now let me go back to the same console and I will rerun the same command ns lookup pc02 and I will hit enter. Can you see it automatically picked 171? Can you guys see this window?
Yes, Vinny.
See, that is how the request is again go to the DNS zone and it is searching for the PC02 record. Yes, the record is there and the IP address is now not 71, it is 171. Okay, and imagine I will just delete this record. And now if I go to this PC01 and rerun the same command, okay, and let us see what it comes. See, it is telling now unknown, can't find the PC02, non-existent domain. Okay, see this is what, because it doesn't have any record there now in the DNS, and that is the reason you see this error called non-existent domain. Okay, got it right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is about, now you learned how to create a record, correct na? Right click, go to this one and say for example link, not LinkedIn, selfdomain.com, so self domain, okay, example, okay, and you can put 192.168.190.200. Okay, now you know how to, now you know how to create a record. And now I want to change the IP address. I will, instead of 200, I'll make it 150. Now you know how to edit a record. See, the IP address got changed. How to edit a record. Okay. Now I want to show you how to create an alias name. Now I don't want this self domain to be created like that. I want to create a new alias record. Okay. And the alias name is self. Okay. And domain name is, I'll select the record. Which record you want to see here, guys? I am telling I want to create a alias. Okay. And the alias name is mm, okay, self only I'll put it. Okay, I want to create an alias called self. Okay, and for which record I can browse. Which record you want to create alias record? Forward lookup, go to google.com and you see all the records, whatever you created. See, whatever you see here, you can see here. For which record I want to create alias? For the self domain, I have to create the alias. I'll say click OK, apply OK. And you see here you have self domain as a host a record and the alias self as a alias name. See here. Now if I go to command prompt, okay, I'll make it clear screen. This is very interesting. See, now I will try to look up ns lookup self domain. If I put self domain, okay, it is resolving me to the same self domain.google.com. Correct? Huh? Now what I will do, I don't want to call it as self domain. I want to call this just as self because it's self domain means it's a little bit bigger. I don't want to call that. And if you see now, it is resolving to the same IP address 192.168.190.50 even though I'm using alias and it is telling the alias name is this one self.google.com. Means this is what alias. I mean calling you in a different name, calling you in another name. Okay, that is called as alias. So now you know how to create records, a record, alias record, how to edit a record, and now I will show you how to delete a record. If you want to delete, just right click, delete. Just right click, delete. That is about forward lookup. Another one is reverse lookup. So this is the reverse lookup. All the reverse lookup entries will be created here. See, and it says domain name system DNS allows a namespace to be divided into zones. Okay, each zone stores information about one or more continuous DNS domains. So to add a new zone, on the action menu, click new zone. Okay, what you have to do, you have to right click on the reverse and say new zone. There is no zones now. Zones, I told you, it is a storage area. Now I'll create zones because I wanted to show you how to create a zone, what is primary, secondary, stub. Click on new zone. If I click on zones, it says next. It is asking me whether you want to keep primary, secondary, stub. But I want to create a primary zone. Say next. What do you want to keep? To all the DNS servers in the running domain? Yes. I want to store information all the DNS servers, okay, google.com. Whether it's IPv4, IPv6, you can select. In our case, we are using IPv4. So next. And what is the network ID? Network ID means the IP segment of the google.com. Okay. In our zone, see, this is different for every subnet actually. Here, if you are using 192.168.190 series, see, you have to put this. If you are using 170 series, you have to put 172.16.1. Whatever that number. If you look at here, I am typing forward here 192.168.190. Correct, na? 192.168.190. But if you look here, it is ulta. See, one reverse lookup. It is 190.168.192.in hyphen addr hyphen arpa. See this address resolution protocol. This ARPA means it is address resolution protocol that is responsible for resolving an name to IP address. ARPA means address resolution protocol. Okay, so that's fine. You don't have to worry about that. That's a networking part. Say next, next, and finish. Now, if you see, there is a new record, I mean, zone got created. Okay, and if you see, automatically, I told you, no, automatically DNS server means it is a NS record, see, name server. And if you see DC01, in that we have installed the DNS. That is the reason DC01 record got created automatically as a name server record. That is also clear. Now how to create a record here? Pointer record. See, pointer record, if you right click and if you say new pointer record, see, automatically it is not giving the name, it is giving the IP. And what you have to do, say for example 30 if you put, and you can browse the record dc001 forward lookup google.com, and that dc01 is here, sorry, dc01 is here with 192.168.190.30, the same IP address here. See, this 190.30, here 190.30, you can select that dc01, and if you say okay, the record will be getting created. See, a pointer record got created. This is manual one. The dynamic one, let me delete this. See, now no records are there. You go to this google.com and you see here dc01 is there, pc01 is there. There is an easy way to create the pointer record. Just right click on this records, go to properties, and you have an option update this associated pointer record. Means you can automatically update the associated pointer record there. If you just click this button, automatically there in the stub reverse lookup zone, if you refresh, the record will be automatically populated here. See, I have not done. Automatically, this pointer record, if you look at name is this one 192.168.190.30, type is pointer record, and data is DC01. But if you look here, ulta, name is PC, data is IP. But in the reverse lookup, name is IP, data is name. Correct, na? If you look this IP address, this name will be resolved. Here, if you look this name, this number will be resolved. Okay. Now let me do this for PC also. PC right click, and I'll, sorry, PC only we did. So right click on DC, go to properties, and okay, both are populated now. Wait. Mm, this is DC01. Okay. I'll go to PC. This is statically dynamic one it is. Okay, that is why. So let me uncheck this and let me check it again. It will take some time and it will be populating here. See, it came here. Both DC01 and PC01 both are there, and if you see here, 8 p.m. this record got created. When it is 10/19/2023, 8 p.m. it got created because we did some changes now here, PC01 and all. See, the same thing got populated there. So this is how you will work with the DNS. If somebody asks you what is the how do you create a DNS record, you can just tell I'll go to DNS, I'll go to the primary zones, and then I'll create, right click and say a record or a CNAME record or MX record, I'll create it. And pointer record, same thing. Imagine here in the reverse lookup zone you have any other one. Okay, right click, new zone, secondary, no, primary only, say next, all, IPv4, and here you can put 172.16.1 dot, that's all. Each and every subnet range will have different reverse lookup zones. Okay, in the under the google.com only. Okay, so maybe Hyderabad has got 172 series, and if you want to create a reverse lookup record there, you have to create Hyderabad range zones. So if you right click on the forward lookup zone on the top, you have new zone, next, secondary zone, next, zone name can be instagram.com example. Okay, and you can just put 8888, say next, finish. See, now if you see Instagram, the secondary zone, because I don't have connectivity, that is the reason it is like that. Okay, if you right click and go to the properties, it says this is your secondary. See, type is secondary zone. Okay, and if I right click on the this one, right, Google, that is the primary zone. See, it is running Active Directory integrated. Okay, startup authority, I was telling, SOA record. See here, refresh interval is 15 minutes. You can change this refresh interval to different times also, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So this information stored as SOA, start of authority. Okay, so I think this is too much, guys, for you. Any questions so far? If no questions, let me stop the recording, then I'll take the questions.